Well, if you didn't know this already, Ty West and Mia Goth are awesome. Let's talk about Pearl. What up? Bobo here. Thanks for coming back with some more popcorns. So, saw Pearl last night with my boy Andrew. Man, it was excellent. Ty West is just knocking it out the park. Now, if you guys saw X, which I loved, I have a review of that on the channel here, this is a prequel to that, and they actually showed the preview for this right after X in the theater. But the difference is this was written by Mia Goth and Ty West. So I'm wondering if it was like her idea or something along with Ty West's script for X, and then they were shooting, and she said, hey, I have an idea. Who knows? But boy, I tell you what, I loved every second of it. Now, if you liked X, and you're going into this movie expecting the same type of movie, don't. Because it is polar ends of the spectrum of styles of movie as far as tone and the feeling of it. I mean, this one literally feels like you're watching a movie from the 20s or 30s. Except for a little bit better production values, obviously. But it has this Wizard of Ozzy vibe, you know? Just like when you were watching X and it had that vibe like you were watching an actual movie from the 70s, not like someone trying to be gimmicky for the 70s. It felt like a film from the 70s. But I mean, the cinematography, the aesthetic all the way throughout, he did a great job of making this feel like it was back then. Just extremely creative and artistic. I was in love with it from the second it started. But if you're familiar with Ty West's films like The Innkeepers, The Sacrament, House of the Devil, X, those movies have a slow burn and build up because he likes you to get involved with the characters and he likes to make you feel like something's about to happen. Takes a little while, but when it happens, it hits the fan and it's awesome. And this sort of has that same formula, but it's not. It's not necessarily your typical horror film. X was way more creepy throughout. It had darkness to it throughout. This is a very bright movie all the way through, but it's about Pearl. And X, it was about a bunch of different characters. Yes, you were kind of focusing on Maxine a little bit, but everybody had like equal screen time. This movie is about Pearl. This is Mia Goth's movie. It's a character study, really. It's not a scary horror movie with a ton of jump scares or anything, but it's totally f***ed up, and she does some f***ed up things.
I know what I've done. Bad things. Terrible, awful, murderous things.
What I love about this movie the most is it's nothing like Ty West has ever done before. It was just beautifully done, extremely artistic, and that's what I really want to stress about filmmakers like Ty West. He's making movies that are gonna last forever. They're not trendy just because, oh, it was marketing on something that was popular at the time. You'll be able to watch both of these movies 20 years from now and they'll be equally as good because he's making art that lasts. I mean, but there's so many elements into the movie that are just so well done that you're just watching this story. You don't really even feel like you're watching a horror movie. You're just watching this really interesting story about Pearl, her family, where she came from, and it just happens to get really jacked up. But they kind of make you feel a little bad for her, like they kind of make you be on Pearl's side. And again, if you don't know, this is the old lady in X. This is her younger. There's this great element with her and her father. There's this really tense element with her and her mother throughout the film. But like some of the moments where they're having this argument between Pearl and her mom, man, just the way it's filmed and shot. And like I said, you're not necessarily feeling like you're watching a horror movie. You're just watching this interesting story that just happens to take some twisted turns. It starts off lighthearted, but slowly but surely gets a little bit more dark. I mean, in a really weird way, it's kind of like a horror soap opera because it's so dramatic, like movies were back then. And while you're watching this movie, you're forgetting that you're watching a prequel to X because you're really focused on this character of Pearl. But every now and then, Ty West will do something to remind you that it's a prequel to X, or he'll do these really cool Easter eggs, just this really tightly written stuff that makes its way into the film that definitely it was just smart. It wasn't in your face, it wasn't phoned in, it was just really well done. I love you, Ty.
We're looking for someone with X Factor.
And just like all of his other movies, just give it a minute. If you think it's not going anywhere, just give it a minute because he wants you to have that feeling of surprise and to get to know the characters. But once it does take its certain turns here and there, I'm telling you, it's brutal and it's really well done. Lots of images that'll stick in your mind forever. I can't really explain it because I don't want to give too much away, but there's this really cool kill count montage scene that it's just beautifully done. It's literally like watching something that's a piece of art. It's majestic and it's horror. Oh, and they don't forget the alligator or crocodile, whatever it is in the pond. That's all a part of this too, and it's great. But what I really want to focus on, hardcore, is Mia Goth. Holy man, I can't express to you how awesome she was in this movie. I already knew she was a good actor. You know, from X, she was great in that. And you realize in real life she has a British accent. But in this movie, where you're literally focused on her the whole time, there's two different things. One is a speech that she gives in the movie where she's talking to someone and it's one take and she's crying real tears. Everything you see on the screen is completely captured in one take and it's breathtakingly moving. It's tense. Though, I mean, I'm getting chills thinking about it. That's how good of a job she did. I mean, if she doesn't get awards for this, I'm gonna be pissed. It's Oscar worthy. And then there's this ending scene where she's looking at the screen, looking at the camera, and there's sort of this like kind of surprise ending. I'm not gonna tell you anything, but the whole thing is she's looking at the camera while all the credits are going up and she's keeping this smile and she's like going crazy in her mind while she's smiling, looking at the camera. Unbelievable what she's doing on screen right here. I'm telling you. If not anything, even if you hate horror, suspense, or any sort of movies that are jacked up, you need to watch this just because of her if you respect acting. Some of the best stuff I've ever seen somebody do on the camera. No kidding. And then at the very end, Andrew and I were like, man, wouldn't it be really cool if there was like one more movie that Ty West was doing to add to this? And sure enough, he's making a trilogy out of it. It's called Maxine, and it's gonna be taking place in the 80s, and they showed a little teaser trailer right at the end of this one, just like they did for Pearl at the end of X. So I'm so pumped up, Ty West, that you're doing this. Kudos to you, dude. Keep it up. I love what you're doing, man. So happy that you're making your way into the industry like this. You know, like actually becoming a household name, kind of. And we're getting someone that's actually implementing a cool horror trilogy, a planned horror trilogy. I give Pearl 8+. Everything about it I loved. It's not necessarily your typical horror film, but it is a horror movie. It's psychological. It's a lot of weird tension. And like I said, it's kind of a character study. Well, that'll do it for this review, guys. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you can help us make it to the top. And as always, if life gives you lemons, make some hot, fresh pop.